So today we will talk about, three social contractualists. Or social contract theorists. And three social contract theorists were Hobbes, Locke, and Rousseau. Three social contract theorists. There are many social contract theorists, but that we are going to study, that is Hobbes, Locke, and Rousseau. Right? Yesterday we finished Machiavelli. Now, why do we study these Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau? Do you remember when I talked about Greek city-state, I was talking about, and there was a social contract theorist, Locke. He given contract theorists why weaker and stronger come to the contract and established a justice. Right? Right? He said there are two contract between poor and strong. And the strong gives, a stronger gives security to the poor, and poor agrees to obey the stronger. So just is the interest of the stronger. Right? That was a social contract theorist. Right? But if you see the entire medieval time, don't थोड़ा लिख लिए, थोड़ा सा मन लगे तो लिखिए, अदरवाइज कुछ मैं लिखवा नहीं रहा हूं. जब लिखवाऊंगा तो डिक्टेशन करवाऊंगा, लगे कि ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, थोड़ा समझाना है मुझे. Now, when we talked about Machiavelli, I talked about that, okay, the medieval time was different and modern time was different. Totally, the medieval society was based on, right, hierarchy. There was a feudalism. There was a two class, landed class, and other was serf. Right? Landed class was land holding class. They were called lord, and serf was like a bounded labor. Fine. Religion was very instrumental in everyday life also, and in politics also. Right? Now, if you look at these social contracts theorists, right, they question the religious authority first. Right? And if you look at the before 16th, 17th century, there was one theory called divine right theory. Divine right theory. What was this theory all about? This was very effective theory. This theory was answering to the question why we should obey the government. We have seen that in Greek city-state, right? There was a philosopher like Aristotle, Plato, who answers why we should obey the government. Right? Here again, in medieval time, there was a answer to the question why we should obey the government. There was a divine right theory answer. It was very effective. Why you should obey the government? Because the king is the God on the earth. King is the representative of God on the earth. Right? So God has made everything. Right? And since God is, the king is a representative of the God, so everything belongs to God. This land, right? The tree, ocean, river, plateau, right? Hills, everything belongs to God. Right? And you are also belongs to them. And that's why you should obey the king. Fine? Clear? Now, if you look at this social contracts theories, they rejected this idea. They rejected the idea, and they had given a different idea called social contract theory. And they said, that if they traced history. They traced history. If you see there was a phase of hunting gathering stage. Then after that, Then after that, certain point of time we have formed state. The logic was, there was, if you see the ancient man and woman, right? If you go to the history, they were living not together but separately. But after some point of time, even Aristotle says, after some point of time, man and woman come together, they form the family, right? They said, okay, that's fine. They also formed state through a contract. Through a contract, they call social contract. Right, and they form the state, government. They form the state or government, but what do you call the period when there was no government? What will you call that phase when there was no government? This all author Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau calls state of nature. They called state of nature. Man were living in a state of nature, right? And at certain point of time, they formed a social contract. Why they formed social contract? There are different answers from all three. What kind of government they formed? There were different kind of government. Fine? What the idea? This was the study about all this theory, or all these theories, right? If you look at, Aristotle, what Aristotle say about state? He said state is a natural institution. State is a natural institution. It is a prior to a man. Right? Why it is a natural institution? Because human beings are natural. All human beings are natural. Right? And human being formed family, which is also natural. Right? And after some point of time, they thought that family is a not self-sufficient institution. Therefore, they formed village in order to help each other, to satisfy each other's need. Even after some point of time, they felt that even that is not, fulfilling all their needs and requirement of the people. Then they formed state, right? And state is a natural institution. It is a prior to man. Why it is a prior to man? Aristotle gave logic. For example, tell me, an apple tree is a prior or apple is a prior? अगर कोई एप्पल का ट्री है तो कौन प्रायर होगा? ये एप्पल ट्री है और एप्पल है. Who is prior? Apple tree? That he is giving an example. He is giving about oak, but I am taking here, a tree of क्या बोलते हैं? Apple. And he said apple tree is more prior than an apple. Right? An apple can develop themselves only with the tree, not dissociating with the tree. Right? That we already talked about. An individual can fulfill all requirement and develop their all personality while living in a state. Right? It is very necessary. Those who does not feel the necessity of the society or state, then either they are beast or God. Now, this theory says state is not a natural institution. State is not a prior. A state is based on social contract, and individual is prior to state. Why individual is prior to the state? We will come one by one. Just I am giving you some basic idea. Right, so we will talk about this all three. Fine. Okay. Now, before we talk about all these three thinkers, I will talk about the context. Right, as we talked about in when we started talking about Machiavelli, we started talking about Aristotle, Plato, and Socrates. We talked about the context. Similarly, here I will talk about few ideas. Right. And that context continued till today. You'll find that's the context which produced in, developed in 17th, 18th century, that continued even today. Right? Fine. So that I will talk about. Did you get the basic idea? So I have not taught anything, just given you, बोर्ड आई जस्ट थोड़ा सा बताया कि क्या है ये अरिस्टोटल प्लेटो सॉरी नहीं social contractualist theory, Hobbes, Locke and Rousseau. Now if you look at the philosopher that we are trying to understand, that is Hobbes, Locke and Rousseau. They are called modern political philosophers. Even Machiavelli, right? Machiavelli called modern political philosopher. There are debate whether Hobbes is a modern political philosopher or Machiavelli is a modern political philosopher. Right? We studied yesterday. We discussed about why Machiavelli should be called modern political philosopher, or the thought, father of modern political philosophy, modern political thought. Now, if you look at the time period, right? Earlier, what was the time? It was medieval. Then you have modern. Why we call for certain period as a modern? We have discussed. Why do we call this is a modern time? This is a modern thought. This is a modern lady. That man is a very feudal. Right? Why do we call? Yeah, very good, very good. Right, Renaissance was very important. Why? Because that was revival of the Greek political culture, revival of region. Right, logic. Now, if you look at since this 16th century when Renaissance came, and what happened? Renaissance took birth in Florence, but it also traveled in other part of Europe. और टाइम लगता है ट्रैवलिंग होने में. ऐसा नहीं कि रेनेसा आया और तुरंत आज के दिन जैसे. नाउ टुडे वर्ल्ड इज वेरी very interconnected. Yesterday she reached there, that Nancy Pelosi reached to Taiwan, and the world knew that okay, she reached Taiwan. Fine. Are you following Taiwan issue? Fine. तो ऐसा तो था नहीं. It traveled, Renaissance traveled to other part of the Europe. Right? At the same point of time, what was Renaissance? It is a region. Logic, I told you that you cannot judge a man by his attire. थोड़ा कोट पैंट शर्ट पहन के रहेगा और मुंह से जो निकलेगी वही 7th century वाली बात निकलेगी. होता है कि नहीं होता है? Even you can hear this kind of word from even a Supreme Court judge. Right? The last year one Supreme Court judge had said that if a rapist married to, if a woman married, if a rapist agreed to marry, right, to a woman whom he raped, then he cannot be called a rapist, right? Marriage हो जाए तो ठीक है, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. Can you think of this low graded thinking, thought? Anyway, so you cannot judge a man by his attire. You can judge a man through his language, through his thought. And it is applicable to everyone. It is applicable to everyone. So Renaissance was one point, one movement that gave impetus, or that provoked and promoted region, logic, rationality over religion. Fine? Got the idea? Now, second was Reformation. Have you heard of this word Reformation? The Reformation. What was the Reformation? आपको टेक्स्ट दिया हुआ है, उसमें लिखा हुआ था, पढ़ा है. अच्छा, what was reformation? Yeah. So now if you see, there was a Catholic Church, right? That there was a Catholic Church, and that church basically was a symbol of power, right? The Pope used to do everything, right? There was so much of orthodoxy and so much malpractices, right? There was so much of sin, right? Have you heard of that one word, saint versus sin? Saint or sinner? Saint or sinner, right? A saint become a sinner, right? Anyway, there was so much of some malpractices within the Catholic Church, right? ये मत करो, वो मत करो, यहाँ मत जाओ, ऐसे करो, वैसे करो, right? सैटरडे को अपना वो करो, क्या बोलते उसको, एक्सेप्ट करो ट्रूथ, right? क्या किया तुमने, नहीं किया. And church used to plot lots of thing against their own people, right? What happened? People started revolting against the Catholic Church and their orthodoxy. People started protest against Catholic Church and their orthodoxies and moral practices, and they were turned as a Protestant. They were turned as a Protestant. And do you know who started? Few leaders' name. Can you tell me? Martin Luther, right? Martin Luther started revolt, right? And in between there was one person who wrote a book, like, not in that period. Later on, there was one person who promoted new idea, like Calvin. What was Calvin? What Calvin used to say? पहले था ना हिंदू धर्म में कि समुद्र से पार मत जाओ, right? ऐसे मत करो. Calvinism rejected the all orthodox idea of Christianity, right? And they said, okay, do entrepreneurs, do trade, be mobile. Mobile means go here and there, right? Use modern things, right? Go to university and study there. Don't go to church, go to university. This all promoted a new attitude in human being, right? And that led to what Weber calls, that led to capitalism also, right? How capitalism emerged? Because people, started new approach. What was the approach? Study new science and technology, went for innovation, right? They've been mobile. They started accumulating capital, money, trading in the society, right? And that led to, a evolution of one economic, order that is called capitalism. We will talk about later on capitalism, but Reformation was a fight, right? So there was a two version, Reformation, the Protestant and Catholic Church both fought. Fine. Now, what was the third? If you see, during this time, there was a, scientific discovery and development, right? If you see the Europe, it, invented lots of things. For example, rail engine, right? Steam, कौन था? Steam James, क्या नाम था उसका? Steam engine जो हुआ था, हम लोग 10th में पढ़ा करते थे, wasp. Anyway, I'm missing the name, but you got it. You are receiving the idea. During this time, there's lots of innovation, right? Lots of innovation, and that innovation giving more production. There's a rail track has been set up. So there's a revolution in rail, right? Revolution in production, and that led to a formation of new city, new city. And what happened? The landed class who can establish new industry. Of course, जिसके पास capital होगा. So जो landed class थे, the landed class went to new place, that is city, and they started new industry. One industry, two industry, three industry, and they were the owner. They were called capitalist. Because new form of economic order, earlier it was agrarian, now you new production, right? And they were called, what they are called? Capitalist, right? And one term coined, there was also one term, that is bourgeoisie. Have you heard of the word bourgeoisie? Right? Now serf, who was kind of bonded labor in rural area, right? They also needed some work because their situation in the village area was very bad. They also tried to move, and not tried to, they moved from village to new emerging city, right? And they became what they became? Labor within that industry, right? It is called working class. They are called working class, and also one term, that is proletariat. Yeah, proletariat, right? And you see this evolving new urban society was become very vibrant. New infrastructure was laid down by the government for the more production, right? More innovation, right? New banking system was introduced, isn't it? New infrastructure, bridge, rail, right? New machine, and you can see there are new form of society emerged, and that society is called capitalist society. Fine, right? Now come to the knowledge. Now if you look at, there are a few philosophers who said knowledge should not be based on mere opinion. What Xenophon talked about, what Aristotle, Socrates talked about. Few people like क्या नाम था उसका, Francis Bacon. He said, our knowledge should be based on observation. Our knowledge should be based on observation, scientific idea, scientific data, we can verify it. और कुछ भी knowledge ऐसे कि किसी को भूत लगता है, भूत किसको पता है लगता है कि नहीं लगता है, right? They call it is a mere institution, intuition. आपका जो knowledge है, that should be based on observation, fact, right? And that knowledge should be verified. ऐसा नहीं कि ऐसे ही मान लिया, नहीं. That knowledge should be tested. That knowledge should be verified. And they thought knowledge is not mere knowledge, but knowledge is power. Knowledge is not a mere knowledge, it is a power. That was Francis Bacon first time regarded knowledge as power. Got the idea? And they rejected the traditional method कि God ऐसा करता है, हाँ ऐसा हो गया तो ऐसा हो गया, नहीं. All knowledge should be based on scientific discovery, facts, right? And that discovery, that knowledge must be tested. Got the idea? Right? In due course of time, in another century, I'm moving from 17th to 18th century, right? There was another movement. That movement is called Enlightenment. What is enlightenment? What is the literal meaning of enlightenment? Sorry? Awakening. Okay. Fine. Yeah, fine. Or sorry, come again. Broadening this perspective of your knowledge. Yeah, Ashwin, Harshit.
Understanding.
What is the meaning of enlightenment?
Understanding.
Understanding. All are coming, yeah? Critical rationality. Very important. Critical rationality. ठीक है, rationality ठीक है, यहाँ पर critical, आप you must be critical, right? कुछ भी है criticize करो, caution करो. Think about Aristotle, what he said about the examination of knowledge. And knowledge must be inquired, must be, you must question the knowledge, existing knowledge. अगर क्वेश्चन करना बंद कर देंगे तो हम आगे सही नहीं कर सकते, आगे नया नॉलेज हम एक्वायर नहीं कर सकते. Rationality, critical rationality was the core of enlightenment, right? And believe your region rather than a teacher, rather than your guardian, rather than your doctor, rather than anyone, but believe your even text, book. If you are reading something, if you are knowing something, what she did, that is a complete, enlightenment, right? What you know something, question it, right? अभी कभी एक प्रचार आया है अमिताभ बच्चन का, right? He is asking कौन बनेगा करोड़पति में, कि ओके कुछ सवाल पूछता है और आंसर होता है सवाल, हाँ कुछ सवाल कुछ और होता है कि अच्छा 2000 के नोट में पता था कुछ नहीं, तो लेडी आंसर देती है सर 2000 का चिप है 2000 का आंसर, राइट? बोले कहां से मिला, तो वो जी न्यूज देखा सर, हमारा तो गलत नहीं हो सकता. तो अमिताभ बच्चन कहते हैं ज्ञान कहीं हो ले लीजिए, कहीं से भी बटोर लीजिए, बट उसको पहले टटोल लीजिए, राइट? उसको जरूर टटोलिए, राइट? that is enlightenment. Okay, fine, whatever knowledge you receiving, you must inquire it, you must cross-examine it, whether it is right or wrong. If doctor prescribe you 10, a list of 10 medicines, even if you have doubt, you must cross-examine it, right? That was enlightenment. And if you look at the first case of enlightenment thinker, then he was Locke, that we need to study, right? Even Locke, हम Locke पढ़ेंगे, Hobbes नहीं था. Locke and Rousseau was also enlightenment thinker, right? If you look at the basic point of enlightenment thinkers, they give priority to individual rather than society. They give priority to individual rather than society. They give priority to individual freedom rather than social freedom. They give priority to, rationality. Fine. So that were the entire context of 17th, 18th century, and that we continued. Even today we talk about the same. We question about, right? And why we call modern? Because all these, characterize modernity, right? So we have talked about society, how society evolved from feudal and agrarian society to capitalist society, how religion was questioned, reformation, how reason and logic and rationality given priority over religion or religious practices. We talked about then also science and scientific discovery, innovation, right? They questioned the existing knowledge, and they thought that a true knowledge should be based on scientific data, fact, calculation, and it must be verifiable. कोई knowledge है तो उसको जरूर टेस्ट कर लीजिए, right? And if you see in philosophy, right, the few philosophers like Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau back the idea. If you see Newton, Isaac Newton, have you heard of him? Isaac Newton discovered new idea, law of motion, right? Not only Isaac Newton, Copernicus discovered something that before Copernicus, idea was what? Idea was the sun revolves around the earth. But Copernicus discovered it is not sun, but it is the earth which revolves around the sun. Right? Then you see Galileo. Galileo talked about motion. Galileo talked about motion. Right? Then you had many scientific, Isaac Newton, then 19 Newton, bata diya, 20th century mein hua Einstein. Right? There are so many scientists. They influenced also this philosopher. This was the context of 16th, 17th, 18th century, 19th century, and that continue. Right? So modernity tak samajhna hai, post-modernity kabhi aur. What is postmodernism? Sometime. Not now. Otherwise, सारा बखेड़ा हो जाएगा आपके knowledge का. Got the idea? What do you mean by modernity? Modernity reflects all these things. When you say someone as a modern, that means whether he is giving priority to individual freedom or not. और ये कहता है कि नहीं, आप अपनी जाति में ही शादी कर लीजिए, आप अपने प्रांत में ही शादी कर लीजिए. हाँ, राइट. फॉर एग्जाम्पल अभी हरियाणा में एक सोसाइटी है, खाप पंचायत. हैव यू हर्ड ऑफ द खाप पंचायत? इट इज अ वेरी मच फ्यूडल इंस्टीट्यूशन. फाइन. So entire 17th century, 18th century, 19th century was influenced by all these ideas. Renaissance, Reformation, Enlightenment, scientific discovery. Even today we talked about. हाँ, है ना कि नहीं? बात नहीं करते. हम बोलते गणेश जी ने फर्स्ट सर्जन थे जी. Right? Right. So this was the context. कोई कंफ्यूजन है तो बताइए. ये पूरा मैकियावेली से आगे पूरा जो मैंने आइडिया बताया आपको, चेंजेज इन इकोनॉमी, चेंजेज इन सोसाइटी, चेंजेज इन पॉलिटिक्स, चेंजेज इन साइंस एंड डिस्कवरी, राइट? एंड दैट gave impetus to industry, right? The world witnessed industrialization. Right? And that all gave, one idea that if you look at Machiavelli, ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा जमीन हड़प लो. Even Locke भी कहता है. Right? Now you see that what was the repercussion? Imperialism. Repercussion was imperialism. The country of West who developed this all thing started, searching for new market. Right? And in search of new market, what was British East India Company? It was a trading company. It was a trading company that came to India for trade. So the French, so the Dutch, so the other. Right? That changes in society of the West, promoted a new kind of changes. समझ में आ रहा है? दिलीप, अर्जुन, समझ में आया? Pai, did you get this slide? Got the idea? Now, yeah, of course. See, this entire modernity has, promoted so many political changes, right? If you see the economic changes, I told you that from feudal agrarian society to capitalist society. If you look at political, it promoted lots of revolution, like French Revolution, like American Revolution, later on Socialist Revolution, right? So it promoted many revolution, and that revolution also promoted new idea, right? French Revolution, liberty, equality, and fraternity, right? The American Revolution promoted one idea, that is liberty. Liberty पे statue देखा है, right? Then now if you talk about कौन सा revolution? Russian Revolution. Russian Revolution promoted socio-economic rights. Socio-economic rights. Some rights should be given by the state to the citizen. Right to shelter, right to education, right to food, right to health, right to shelter, right to infrastructure, right to recreation, right? Different things. Fine. So एसी नहीं चलाया है, थोड़ा बता, जा रहे हैं, अब बैठिए आराम से, अब बैठिए आराम से. So we have talked about the several historical context of Europe in 17th, 18th, 19th century. Right? That is there in the text. You can get it. पढ़ सकते हैं आप उसको, समझ सकते हैं. जरूरत नहीं है, ये पूछेगा भी नहीं. अगर पूछेगा तो you can answer it. एक सिलेबस में नहीं है, बट सिलेबस में नहीं है. जैसे पेलोपोनेशियन वॉर कभी नहीं पूछेगा WPT में, पेलोपोनेशियन वॉर, बट वॉर बताया मैंने. आपको जेनोफेन के बारे में कभी नहीं पूछेगा. आपको ये कभी नहीं पूछेगा कि अच्छा प्लेटो से पहले थियरी क्या थी. बट हमें समझने के लिए थोड़ा समझना पड़ता है, तभी लिंक बना पाते हैं. नहीं तो लिंक नहीं बना पाते. आप हॉब्स को पढ़ते रह जाइए, पढ़ा दूंगा हॉब्स को, उसके बाद भी हॉब्स को पढ़ लेंगे, फिर भी कुछ दिन बाद भूल जाएंगे, पता ही नहीं चलेगा हॉब्स पढ़ा क्यों हॉब्स को पढ़ा. बीच में सारे थिंकर छोड़ दिए, हॉब्स को पढ़ा. व्हाई? फाइन. सो should I talk about Hobbes now? Right, there are many philosophers. First generation of Enlightenment, Montesquieu, Voltaire, Locke. Second generation, David Hume, Rousseau, Diderot, and then third generation, Kant and Adam Smith. इसमें हमें इधर लॉक पढ़ना है, इधर रूसो पढ़ना है, और कांट को थोड़ा बताऊंगा. राइट, बट कांट को बाद में बताऊंगा. कब बताऊंगा कांट को? जब रॉल्स बताऊंगा, जॉन रॉल्स की थियरी, तब कांट को बताऊंगा, ताकि उससे कनेक्ट होता है, लिंकेजेस आता है. फाइन. शुड आई टॉक अबाउट थॉमस हॉब्स? राइट नाउ, अभी भी लिखना नहीं है, अभी भी समझना है. अभी मॉडर्निटी में लाया हूं आपको. Yeah, is it clear? Harshita, Ashwin, Shobit, making sense about all these changes that took place in the 16th, 17th century in Europe? Very good. Now let's talk about Hobbes. There is a very interesting story about Hobbes. And time period was 1588 to 1679. It is said that Hobbes and fear took birth together. Hobbes and fear was twin. Why it is so? There are many stories about him. His birth was premature. His birth was premature. On 7th month, he took the birth. Right? And his mother died when he was very child, very early. He was a kid. Right? And he received his education from Oxford University. Right? He was very intelligent. Right? His father brought a stepmother. That stepmother never gave respect to Hobbes. Anyway, Thomas Hobbes never married. He never married, right? But since he was very educated in Oxford University, he was very closer to the king's family. And king's family used to give very respect to him, and he used to teach king's family. What happened? There was a English Civil War. English Civil War. What was war all about? Let me tell you. War का थोड़ा टाइम देख लेने दीजिए मुझे. The war was about. Oh, मैंने भी टाइम नहीं लिखा. Anyway, it was actually मैं बता दूं 1642 से लेके ये 1649 तक मैंने नहीं लिखा, बट मैं आइडिया बता रहा हूं. इस बीच में वार हुआ था. And war was between two party. One was king's army and parliamentarian army. King's army and parliamentarian army, right? And the king's, he was a James II. His father gave theory that is called divine right theory. Divine right theory. His father was very favored to this. I am a representative God. Have you heard about Louis XIV of France? He was a staunch supporter of divine right theory. I am a God, you are a subject. I am a representative of God. I can do what I wish. Now, he was a son of James II, who was proposing divine right theory. He was also asserting, okay, we have right. But parliamentarians said, no, you are supposed to respect our decision also. And there was a fight. There's a brutal fight. That brutal fight killed at least 2 lakh people in Britain that time. Think about 2 lakh people. 200,000 people died in that. Hobbes was the first person who fled from England to France. पहला इंसान था, लड़ाई थोड़ा वो भाग गया अपना. Right? Because he feared of his life, and he was at the age of 61. He was at the age of 61. Right? And in France, he wrote one classical text that is called Leviathan or Leviathan. And he answered to the question why we should obey the government, even if that government is maybe very autocratic. That government may be very autocratic. For example, the North Korean totalitarian, Kim Jong. Even Kim Jong, if your ruler is Kim Jong, क्या हुआ? नहीं चल रहा है? क्या बोला उसने? अरे खुद से जाके चला दीजिए, आपको खुद पता है. अच्छा, उन्होंने क्या क्वेश्चन किया कि why you should obey the government, right? Why one should obey the government, even it is a imperfect kind, right? On what basis subjects should obey their ruler? There was a divine right theory, very influential. This Leviathan gave different idea, and he also rejected divine right theory, right? And he said there is a social contract. Why do we obey the government? Because we form the government through a social contract, and in that social contract we have transferred our rights. ट्रांसफर आवर राइट्स, ट्रांसफर मतलब हमारे जो पास जो भी राइट्स था हमने दे दिया. किसको? किंग को. सिंस हमने राइट्स दे दिया तो अब हमें फॉलो करना चाहिए उसको. ये बेसिक आइडिया था. अभी तक समझ में नहीं आया, मुझे पता है, कोई बात नहीं. राइट नाउ यू गॉट द आइडिया. सिविल वॉर, इतना तो पता चला कि इंग्लिश में सिविल वॉर हुआ था, इंग्लैंड में सिविल वॉर हुआ था 1947 और 1642 से 1649 के आसपास, राइट? और इस वॉर में क्या हुआ कि ये यहां से भाग गए, राइट? the kings were giving their own reason कि why everyone should obey the king. Very persuasive theory, divine right theory, right? But Leviathan, he died at the age of 91. He lived 30 more years, 30 years more. And during this time, he wrote Leviathan, and he said why we should obey the government. Why we should obey the government, right? Let me tell you the social contract. अभी कुछ नहीं लिखना है. I'll dictate you everything, don't worry. He said, you know, there is a state of nature. What is a state of nature? A condition where there is no government. मतलब स्टेट कह के ना यहाँ पर गड़बड़ हो जाता है, कंफ्यूजन. बट उसने कहा तो यही वर्ड हमें टर्मिनोलॉजी यूज करना पड़ेगा. स्टेट ऑफ नेचर. अच्छा, इसका क्या मतलब है स्टेट ऑफ नेचर? स्टेट ऑफ नेचर में कोई अथॉरिटी नहीं है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, देयर वाज अ हंटिंग गैदरिंग स्टेज, right? Hunting gathering stage, then we moved, right? At a certain point of time, we all are living without authority. We are all living without authority. जिसको मन हुआ जहां चला गया. मेरा मन हुआ इनका कॉपी छीन लिया, मैं खुद लिखने लगा. इनका मन हुआ तो ये मेरा कुछ और लेके चले गए, राइट? है ना? अब ये स्टेट ऑफ नेचर क्या है? एक कंडीशन है जहां पर कोई अथॉरिटी नहीं है, राइट? और ये स्टेट ऑफ नेचर बड़ा ही खतरनाक था. ये कह रहे हैं, हॉब्स सेड दैट स्टेट ऑफ नेचर वाज वेरी डेंजरस. इंग्लिश वर्ड ध्यान में रखना. इट वाज अ ब्रूटल. So what is coming in his mind? This state of nature was very brutal stage. It was a stage where each man was in the war with each man, right? And in this state of nature, each man was equal. अब देख लो, सब मैन की बात कर रहे, वुमेन का जगह नहीं यहां पर, तो मुझे माफ कीजिएगा, ठीक है? वो कह रहा है कि each man is equal. Why each man is equal? Because nature has made man equal. Someone by building, someone by mind. Someone by physics, someone by mind. But if you calculate building and mind, then you will find all are roughly equal. All are roughly equal. किसी को भगवान ने बड़ा बिल्डिंग नहीं दिया है तो उसको दिमाग दिया है थोड़ा सरवाइव करने के लिए, right? And if you calculate, all have equal. Each man is equal and all have equal liberty. In this phase, because there is no government, there is no law, right? There is no law, no sense of just and unjust, right? Each man has liberty to do whatever they want. That is a state of nature. इस state of nature में man का क्या nature रहता है? What is human nature in this state of nature? If you look at Hobbes, Hobbes has portrayed a very pessimistic view on man. Right? He said, see, everything is in motion. He was very influenced by Galileo, motion. In fact, he met Galileo in France, right? And he was very influenced by Galileo's idea. And he said, everyone is in motion, right? And due to motion, everyone has passion. And there are two passions in every person. One is pleasure, another is not pain. One motion is to desire for one thing, and other is to avoid something. What? Desire to have something? Pleasure. Power. What to avoid something? Danger. Everyone's avoid danger, threat. Right? But everyone loves pleasure, wants to maximize pleasure. And power, everyone wants. He said, man has desire for power, and power after power, and that desire seized into death. Right? Man has desire for power, and power after power, and that desire is into death. In this state of nature, human beings are very competitive, right? They want glory, right? And each man, right? This is a state of anarchy, lawlessness, disorder. Why? No government. There's no government, right? So this phase was a phase of anarchy. मत्स्य न्याय जो एक दिन बात कर रहे थे हम लोग, right? And each man is in the war with each man, right? And in this condition, there cannot be industry. There cannot be rule of law. There cannot be family. There cannot be peace. There cannot be security. But only one thing, that is a threat of violent death. A man nature is a short, nasty, poor Brutus in this state of nature, right? But every man wants to escape the state of nature. Why? Because everyone loves their life. Everyone loves their life. They don't want to kill themselves. That desire for pleasure, everyone wants to preserve themselves. So everyone wants to escape this state of nature. Everyone wants to escape this state of nature, right? And certain point of time, everyone thought, no, we can't stay in this state of nature, right? We want to, or we should make a contract. कभी ये मेरा बैग छीन लेता है, कभी मैं इसका छीन लेता हूं, कभी वो उसका छीन लेता है, right? ये जो situation है, not good. And then what we did, we actually came together and make a contract, make a social contract. Yeah, we made a social contract. Yeah, we made a social contract. What we did this in social contract? This is a social contract of each individual with other individual. Right? In the state of nature, we had unlimited rights. जिसको मन हो, जिसका मर्जी हो, छीन लो, खा लो, कूट दो. Right? We had unlimited rights, but here what we did contract, and we each surrendered our rights. To whom? Leviathan. Or commonwealth. It is called commonwealth. In return, what commonwealth will give? The commonwealth or the Leviathan will ensure peace. Peace and security. That is very important. That is very important. Right? And in this social contract, everyone says, since I am transferring my rights on the condition that you also transfer the same rights to the Leviathan, the commonwealth. Right? And through social contract, we establish society and we established government. देखो तो क्या हो रहा है? Society and we established government. You call Leviathan or what? Parliament, whatever you call. You call monarchy, you call whatever, tyranny, whatever form of government you choose. Through the social contract, we formed society, we formed government. Now, after the forming of government, we have to live with the direction of the government. What government will say, that will be the law. Whatever Leviathan will say, that will be the law, and we are free within the ambit of law. We are free within the ambit of law. We have no right, not a single right, except the rights within the law, right? Except right to life. This Commonwealth cannot take away my right to life. Why? तब तो यही बढ़िया था ना, यहां पर भी जिंदगी सिक्योर नहीं थी, लाइफ तो यहां भी गंदा था, कभी भी मर सकते थे. अगर इस स्थिति में मर ही जाएंगे तो इसको बना के क्या फायदा, राइट? If life is not secure here after making a state, then it was better. यहां पर किसी को मार के कुछ दिन जिंदा तो रह लेते, जब मर जाते. So the Leviathan has all right except right to life of his subject, and the subject has right within the ambit of law. Within the ambit of law, the subject has liberty within the ambit of law. यहां पर क्या था? Unlimited rights, unlimited liberty. जिसको जस्ट मन हुआ छीना, राइट? जो मन हुआ खाया, है ना? अपने मन को भाया तो किसको काट के खाया, राइट? हैव यू सीन दैट मूवी? नो, चाइना गेट. हाँ, अपने मन को भाया तो कुत्ता काट के खाया, ऐसे कुछ डायलॉग है. जो मर्जी वो करो. बट ये अनदर फेज में अगर आप आ जाएंगे तो नो, यू हैव टू फॉलो द Leviathan, right? It is a duty, it is a duty, it is a political obligation of each individual to follow, to obey the Leviathan, right? And duty comes from social contract. Leviathan has no moral obligation because Leviathan is a product of the social contract. उसको कोई इंटरेस्ट नहीं है आप में, आपको इंटरेस्ट है because you want peace and security. You want your life must be secured in the state, right? So why we should follow, obey the state? Because certain point of time we entered into a social contract and we formed the government. Now बोलोगे कि सर का क्या मतलब है, तो 2 मिनट बाद मतलब भी बताते तो हूं. अब ये कहता है कि मान लीजिए कि लेवियाथन खत्म हो गया, फिर हम स्टेट ऑफ नेचर में आ गए. अगर लेवियाथन खत्म हो गया, उसने बोला कि मैं लेवियाथन नहीं हूं जी, फिर हम कहां आ गए? स्टेट ऑफ नेचर में. दैट्स इट, ट्रांजिशन. लेट मी गिव यू वन एग्जांपल. Example may look, may not suit, but it will. See, when there was a transition from British power to the Indian power, transition हुआ ना 1947 एक्ट के थ्रू, राइट? उससे पहले हमने कोई कॉन्ट्रैक्ट करा? Did we any contract to wipe certain things, rule us? For example, constitution. Why constitution should rule us? Because the Constituent Assembly was a social contracts lab where our representatives were there and they were doing social contract. They were establishing rights and obligation for everyone, right? So you can see the Constituent Assembly was a assembly where they were doing social contract and they produced a body politics. Actually जब आप इसको पढ़ेंगे, रूसो को फिट बैठता है वहां पे, राइट? बिकॉज उसने ऐसा ही बोला है, राइट? तो वहां पे what was the constitution? Constitution is a product of social contract. We follow supreme constitution as a supreme. Our freedom, our liberty, our rights is within the constitution, ambit of the constitution. Our liberty is not absolute. Anyway, did you get the idea about state of nature, about social contract, about human nature? थोड़ा पता चला? हाँ, अब पता चला ये स्टेट ऑफ नेचर क्या होता है? पक्का? राइट, 1 घंटा. यस यस, अश्विन, हर्षित, शोभित, डिड यू गेट द आइडिया? Then I'll start dictation now. Fine? Should I start then? Okay. Okay. So, page number 59, 60, and 61 that we talked about Renaissance, Reformation, science, and empirical inquiry, and we talked about Industrial Revolution. Then we talked about Enlightenment. You go through by your own. I hope you got the idea. अगर आप पढ़ लेंगे तो और अच्छे से आइडिया समझ में आएगा. Right? Now, first, yeah, clear, Shobhit, very good. Ashwin, Harshita. Now, हम सारा समझ गए हैं. Just now write you Thomas Hobbes. Title दीजिए आज का, Thomas Hobbes. देखो हो रहा है ये. इनका जन्म हुआ था 1588. बहुत बढ़िया. 1679. Now should I wait 1 minute? हाँ, बैटरी चेंज कर लेते हैं.
हेलो हेलो सर सर यू आर नॉट ऑडिबल.
Am I audible now, Shobhit?
Yes sir.
Okay.
Yes sir.
Okay. Okay. All right. थॉमस हॉब्स समझ में आया? अब लिखिए थॉमस हॉब्स के बारे में. राइट. थॉमस हॉब्स was a great political philosopher. Thomas Hobbes was a great political philosopher. Thomas Hobbes, अब पेन नहीं चल रहा आपका सही से क्या? नहीं चल रहा तो लीजिए. चल रहा है? Thomas Hobbes was a great political philosopher that English people had produced. It is said that Hobbes and fear, F-E-A-R, fear are twins. Are twins. Hobbes and twins. Hobbes and fears are twins. Yeah, he witnessed many sad event in his life. He lost his mother. When he was kid. And his birth was premature. His birth was premature. He was the first who ran away. He was the first who ran away from Britain when English Civil War started. When English Civil War started. Right? He wrote Leviathan, He wrote Leviathan, which is a classical text. Which answers to the question that on what basis the subject should obey their ruler. On what basis the subject should obey their ruler. Even if it is imperfect. Full stop. In the para, and right before Hobbes, divine right theory was very popular. Divine right theory was very popular and influential in Europe. Divine right theory states that the king Divine right theory states that the king is the representative of God on earth. And whatever we see that are created by the God. Therefore, everything belongs to God. Everything belongs to God, and his representative, the king. His representative, the king. And everyone should obey him. And everyone should obey him. right? Change the para and write influence on Hobbes. Influence on Hobbes. क्या क्या चीज जो हॉब्स को इन्फ्लुएंस किया था? हाँ, influence on Hobbes. We have talked about, first you write scientific discovery and empirical inquiry. Scientific discovery and empirical inquiry. Right. Hobbes was very influenced. Hobbes was very influenced from scientific discovery and philosophy of science. Philosophy of science. Few scholars like Francis Bacon René Descartes, Kepler and Galileo influenced him a lot. Francis Bacon, René Descartes, Kepler and Galileo influenced him a lot. Right? Galileo, Galileo. Oh, Galileo. Galileo. Right? Galileo. Second, you write second one, English Civil War. English Civil War. What was the time phase? 1642 to 49. ये लिखा था? Yeah. When English Civil War broke out, between the king and parliamentarians, Hobbes was first who flee from England. It was a very brutal war. Which killed which killed 2 lakh people. Right? The culture of murder, lawlessness, anarchy, the culture of lawlessness, anarchy, disorder, and distorted human nature influenced Hobbes a lot. Influenced Hobbes a lot. His Leviathan, 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 huh? His Leviathan reflects human nature based on civil war. आप देखेंगे ना, वार में ही ऐसा जो उन्होंने ह्यूमन नेचर बताया है, केवल वार टाइम में ह्यूमन नेचर बड़ा ही ऐसा हो जाता है. ऐसा ह्यूमन नेचर होता नहीं है जैसे हॉब्स ने कहा है, राइट? एनीवे, so this was the two in point that now two major important factor that influenced Thomas Hobbes. One was the scientific discovery of the particular time, and also scientific discovery and science philosophy of the science, like Galileo, Kepler, René Descartes. Many people were talking about. And the English Civil War, that now you can write key ideas of Leviathan, or key ideas in Leviathan. लोग क्या क्या पढ़ेंगे लेवियाथन में? एक तो पहला पढ़ेंगे हॉब्स का मेथोडोलॉजी क्या है, क्या मेथोडोलॉजी हॉब्स ने अपनाया है इस किताब को लिखने में. दूसरा हम पढ़ेंगे स्टेट ऑफ नेचर. ठीक है? और तीसरा पढ़ेंगे ह्यूमन नेचर. ह्यूमन नेचर के बारे में उसने क्या कहा है. देन नेक्स्ट वी विल टॉक अबाउट सोशल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट. Social contract, and then we will talk about fifth, the government or the commonwealth. और इसी को कहते हैं गवर्नमेंट, राइट? और इसी को कहते हैं सोवरेन पावर. सोवरेन पावर, क्योंकि सरकारी तो सबसे बड़ी पावर होती है. हाँ, अभी पीएमएलए देख लीजिए. आर यू नोटिंग ऑन व्हाट इज हैपनिंग देयर? क्या सुप्रीम कोर्ट का जजमेंट है? व्हाट आर द क्लॉज ऑफ पीएमएलए? आज भी आया है, हर दिन 4 दिन में आ रहा है, मतलब लगातार आ रहा है, राइट? गवर्नमेंट इज वेरी पावरफुल. दे आर द सोवरेन पावर. They are the sovereign power. Fine. This idea we will talk about. Any confusion? Dilip, Arjun, कोई confusion है? किस लिए? Making sense? Yeah. Aswin, Parshita, and one more thing. I'm giving you question. You should write at least one in a day. You have question on Hobbes, Machiavelli. You have question on Aristotle. You have question on Plato. बहुत सारा क्वेश्चन जमा करके नहीं रखना उसको बैंक में, राइट? उसको इनकैश भी करिए अब, राइट? राइट एवरी डे वन क्वेश्चन, राइट? आराम से बैठ के, एंड मुझे डेली दे दीजिए. आई एम ओके विद दैट, राइट? इफ यू आर ओके सर डेली लेंगे तो मैं एक दूंगा, नहीं तो क्या होगा, कभी रेस्टिव हो जाएंगे थोड़ा सा, तो ठीक है, सर को 6 के बदले 5 भी दे दूंगा तो चलेगा, नहीं. On the last day, on Saturday, you submit me, or you submit me every day, but I'll give you on Monday only. आप ले आज दे दिया और कल आप मुझे मांगे सर आंसर क्या हुआ, राइट? तो आपको आंसर मिलेगा बाद में, राइट? ऑन मंडे आई विल चेक, आई विल गिव यू कमेंट, राइट? आई विल ऐड वैल्यू एडिशन, आई विल डू, फाइन, ठीक है? आपका आंसर सही था, लिखा हुआ है, राइट? सो जब आप मुझे देंगे तभी तो पता चलेगा, अदरवाइज क्या करना? मैं कथा तो कोई सुना नहीं रहा हूं, कोई मतलब वो इस बड़ा तो कथा आश्रम तो है नहीं है कि आप कथा सुनिए और घर जाइए और आराम से, नहीं. एवरी डे यू हैव टू प्रैक्टिस, फाइन, ठीक है? तो ये काम करिएगा, आंसर लिखिए, कैसा भी लिखिए, डोंट वरी अबाउट, आई नो यू विल राइट बेटर, फाइन. चलो, should we talk about Hobbes methodology now? And ये आप लोगों के भी ऊपर अप्लाई होता है. I know you can't submit, but you have my email ID. You can scan your answer sheet and send it to me. Yeah? Fine. Shobhit. Okay. I'm right, unable to currently unable due to lack of time. होता क्या, बाद में आप नहीं लिख पाएंगे. Let me tell you, बाद में बहुत डिफिकल्टी होगी, बाद में बहुत कुछ आप भूल भी जाएंगे. अभी नया नया ताजा ताजा है. इफ यू राइट आंसर, राइट, और सारा आंसर मैं आपको लौटाऊंगा, आप उसको एक साथ डॉक्यूमेंट के रूप में रखना. दैट विल बी डॉक्यूमेंटेड. व्हाट इज क्लास नोट्स? इट इज अ डॉक्यूमेंट. बहुत लोग टीचर क्या करते हैं, एक्सप्लेन कर देते हैं और ठीक है अपना खुद लिख लेना. नो, class notes is an important document for you. That answer would be very important document for you, right? There are many questions, I think question on each topic, or 2 or 3 question on each topic in different way. That will be different important document. That will be very helpful for you. Fine? चलो, चलिए लिखिए हॉब्स मेथोडोलॉजी. हमारे पास टाइम है ना, बहुत टाइम है. Hobbes methodology. ठीक है, लिखिए. Hobbes was influenced by new development in science. In science, he was follower of Galileo. His philosophy is based on scientific inquiry of human behavior. His philosophy is based on scientific inquiry of human behavior. He observed complex social phenomena. And explained political philosophy. On the basis of cause and effect. Cause and effect. Cause and effect. ब्रैकेट में लिख दीजिएगा causality. इसको कहते हैं कॉजालिटी। कोई भी अगर आप एक्सप्लेनेशन कुछ ढूंढते हैं ना, उसका कारण ढूंढते हैं और उसका इफेक्ट ढूंढते हैं, उसको बोलते हैं एक वर्ड में कॉजालिटी। फॉर एग्जाम्पल बादल आया और बारिश हुई, राइट? बादल आया और बारिश हुई, आप क्या ढूंढते हैं? कॉज। बादल क्यों आया उसका कॉज ढूंढते हैं, फिर बारिश हुई और फिर आप एनालिसिस करते हैं बारिश क्यों हुई। इसको बोलते हैं कॉज एंड इफेक्ट रिलेशनशिप। अच्छा, थियोलॉजिकल में चले जाएंगे तो आप क्या करेंगे? आपको पता है बहुत सारे जो प्ले होता है, प्ले क्यों होता है? गांव में लोग प्ले करते हैं, क्यों? क्योंकि बादल आएगी और बारिश होगी। आपने लगान सिनेमा देखा है? काले बादल बारिश तो करवाओ, वो पूरी पूजा पाठ करते हैं और बोलते हैं बारिश, बादल आओ बारिश करो, है ना? बट यहां पर कॉज एंड इफेक्ट का, अगर बारिश नहीं हुई है तो फिर से अलग कॉज है, दैट डिफरेंट कॉज, राइट? दैट इज कॉल्ड climate change. That different explanation, causality, that is called cause and effect. That is against the theocratic explanation है, नहीं है कि नहीं? हमारे यहाँ तो स्पेशल एक प्ले होता है, वुमेन खेलती है रात को, राइट? और उसमें बहुत सारे आप वो होता है ना, हम लोग मेढक होता है ना, उस मेढक को पकड़ के उसकी शादी करवाई जाती है, राइट? क्योंकि बारिश के बाद क्या होगा, मेढक ज्यादा आएगा ना, उसकी शादी करवाई जाती है और कहा जाता है कि तुम कुछ लोग कुछ करो, राइट? और ज्यादा फिर ज्यादा मेढक आएंगे तो टैं करेंगे तो बादल आएगी तो बारिश होगा। Yeah, there are stories, there are different stories. It is in a practice. It is in a practice, right? That dance is called Natava Natin. राइट? कि बहुत बारिश नहीं हो रही, वोमेन लोग रात में आराम से, कुछ वोमेन मर्द बनती हैं और बड़ा ही प्यारा होता है, गाने होते हैं प्रॉपर, राइट? वो अब फोक सॉन्ग होता है, प्रॉपर बहुत सारा अरेंजमेंट होता है शादी का, राइट? दो फ्रॉक को पकड़ा जाता है बहुत मुश्किल से, उनकी शादी करी जाती है, राइट? और माना जाता है कि उसके बाद बारिश होगी। दैट इज डिफरेंट, राइट? एनीवे, गॉट आइडिया? कॉजालिटी का मतलब पता चल गया? कॉज एंड इफेक्ट रिलेशनशिप आप ढूंढते हैं हमेशा। देखिए, चेंज कीजिए पैरा, अब लिखिए। हॉब्स किस में विश्वास करता है? कॉजालिटी में, कॉज एंड इफेक्ट में। देखिए, हॉब्स एज्यूम्स, चेंज द पैरा एंड राइट, हॉब्स एज्यूम्स दैट all political phenomena are shaped by human behavior. All political phenomena are shaped by human behavior, and human behavior are shaped by human mind. Human mind. Right? All political phenomena are shaped by human behavior, and human behavior are shaped by human mind. In this, on this earth, everything is matter. Everything is matter. M-A-T-T-E-R. And all matter are in motion. देखिए गैलीलियो का, गैलीलियो भी कहता है ना, all matter are in motion. All matter are in motion. Right? गैलीलियो ही कहता है ना, all matter are in motion. Right? So we experience, right? We experience this world. We experience this world due to motion. And motion is the cause of all, including thought. Including thought, passion, human psychology, and behavior. Right? Change the para and write, motion never stops in person till the person die. Right? Till the person dies. In human being, there are passion due to motion. There are passion due to motion. And there are two kinds of passion. There are two kinds of passion. Colon, two kinds of passions, love and aversion. Love and aversion. Love and aversion. Human being loves those things which give him pleasant feeling. Human being loves those things which give them pleasant feeling and avoid pain. Right? Power gives ultimate pleasure. Power gives ultimate pleasure. Therefore, human being desire for power. Therefore, human being desires for power, after power, and that desire ceases into death. Ceases into death. समझ में आ रहा है इनका एक्सप्लेनेशन कहां से साइंस से ला रहे हैं, कहां से ये मिक्सअप कर रहे हैं साइंस और ह्यूमन बिहेवियर को. Right? Change the para and write, like Galileo physics, comma, Hobbes was influenced by, like Galileo physics, comma, Hobbes was influenced by Euclid geometry. Euclid geometry. आपको पता है ये भी बहुत इन्फ्लुएंस थे ज्योमेट्री से, प्लेटो. राइट? लाइक Galileo physics, Hobbes was influenced by Euclid geometry. He said that geometry is the only science that pleases God. Geometry is the only science that pleases God. Geometry is the only science that pleases God. And we can precise politics. Geometry is the only science which pleases God, and we can precise politics as much as geometry. As much as geometry. समझ में आया कि पूरे पूरे जो पॉलिटिकल साइंस है उसको हम ज्योमेट्री जैसे छोटा कर सकते हैं, राइट, एंड वी कैन एक्सप्लेन थिंग्स. इवन Plato was very influenced from geometry, right? Have you heard of pentagon? होता है ना, हेक्सागन, पेंटागन, बहुत बड़ा थ्योरी है प्लेटो का पेंटागन के ऊपर, राइट. एनीवे, फॉर हॉब्स ज्योमेट्री कैन प्रोवाइड, इसी में कंटिन्यू रखना है. फॉर हॉब्स ज्योमेट्री कैन प्रोवाइड into an intellectual method and can solve human problem. Intellectual method to solve the problem of life. Yeah, done. That was his method. His method was very empirical. He was very much influenced from the science. And he said the entire, politics can be precised as much as geometry, right? And he said everything is in motion, even including mind. सब कुछ मोशन में, इंसान भी मोशन में है, दिमाग में थॉट भी मोशन में है, थॉट मोशन में है, आदमी और उसके हिसाब से पैशन है. There are two kinds of passion. One is love, other is aversion, right? What human beings loves, वो हर चीज को प्यार करता है जो उसको प्लेजर देती है, प्लेजर देती है, राइट, और वो हर चीज को अवॉइड करना चाहता है जो उसको पेन देता है, राइट. अब पावर अल्टीमेट चीज है जो सब पावर प्लेजर देता है नहीं. किसी राज्य का अगर चीफ मिनिस्टर बना दिया जाए कितना मजा आ जाएगा, नहीं. गवर्नर ही बना दिया जाए, नहीं मजा आएगा, हंस रहे हैं. सो पावर, और ये जो डिजायर है हर इंसान में, वो कहता है कि हर इंसान में एक डिजायर है, डिजायर फॉर पावर, एंड दैट डिजायर सीज्ड इनटू डेथ, राइट. ये डिजायर क्यों है? क्योंकि पैशन है. पैशन क्यों है? क्योंकि मोशन है, और हर चीज मोशन में है. लाइक ही वाज वेरी इन्फ्लुएंस्ड बाय गैलीलियो फिजिक्स. एनीवे, नाउ सो वी हैव डन हिज मेथोडोलॉजी. नाउ वी विल नीड टू स्टेट ऑफ नेचर. स्टेट ऑफ नेचर. अब ये पता चला स्टेट ऑफ नेचर क्या है. स्टेट ऑफ नेचर एक हाइपोथेटिकल कंडीशन है, एक एज्यूम्ड कंडीशन है. हाइपोथेटिकल कंडीशन क्या होता है? आप मान लेते हैं, मैथमेटिक्स में मान लेते हैं ना, कहते नहीं, माना कि हम लोग हिंदी मीडियम में पढ़े मैथमेटिक्स, जब मैं 10th में मैथमेटिक्स पढ़ा था, या लेट्स कंसीडर दिस इज इक्वल टू एक्स, मानते हैं ना, माना कि ये एक्स है. यहां पर भी एक हाइपोथेटिकल ये है, कंडीशन है कि ऐसा कंडीशन जहां पर कोई गवर्नमेंट नहीं है, जहां पर कोई गवर्नमेंट नहीं है, हर इंसान फ्री है, जो करना चाहे सो कर सकता है, राइट. जब सरकार नहीं है तो लॉ नहीं है. सरकार होगी तब तो लॉ होगी. लॉ क्या होता है? सरकार जो बनाता है वही लॉ होता है ना. व्हाट इज द लॉ? What is law? All, law is formed by the government. All kind of law. सरकार नहीं है, लॉ नहीं है. तो ये एक ऐसा है कि यहां पर लॉ नहीं है, तो कोई लॉ नहीं है जी, नेचुरल लॉ है यहां पर. कौन सा लॉ है? नेचुरल लॉ. अब नेचुरल लॉ क्या होता है? नेचर ने जो लॉ बनाया है. जंगल में कौन सा लॉ होता है? सर्वाइवल ऑफ द फिटेस्ट. वही तो नेचुरल लॉ है जंगल में. हाँ, सब आपस में मरते करते हैं, कोई अनार्की है, पूरा कुछ नहीं है, जिसको जो हुआ. और ये कहता है कि हर इंसान बराबर है. मेडिवल टाइम में ये थॉट नहीं था. मेडिवल थॉट टाइम में ये थॉट नहीं था कि हर इंसान बराबर है। दूसरी बात ये कहता है कि नेचर ने सबको बराबर बनाया है। उससे पहले क्या बात थी? गॉड ने जन्म दिया है सबको, गॉड ने सबको बनाया है। ये डिसोसिएट करता है कि नहीं, नेचर हैज मेड मैन इक्वल। ठीक है, मैन मैं यूज कर रहा हूं क्योंकि उसने यूज किया है, राइट? एंड वी शुड टॉक अबाउट मैन ओनली बिकॉज वी आर टॉकिंग द टाइम ऑफ हॉब्स and his idea. There is one author, her name is Carol Packman, right? I will tell you. Carol Packman कहती हैं कि हॉब्स, लॉक, रूसो इन सब ने सोशल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट नहीं किया। सोशल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट के साथ साथ एक ऐसा कॉन्ट्रैक्ट किया जिसमें सारी महिलाओं को उन्होंने सबऑर्डिनेट बना दिया, मेल के अधीन, राइट? सो क्रिटिसिज्म होगा बट आइडिया इनका लेना है, राइट? कि यहां पर कुछ नहीं है, नेचुरल लॉ है और नेचर ने सबको बराबर बनाया है। किसी को बनाया है स्ट्रांग, किसी को दिमाग से स्ट्रांग बनाया है। इवन अ वीक पर्सन कैन प्लॉट एंड कैन डिफीट द स्ट्रॉन्गेस्ट वन, राइट? सो इफ यू कंसीडर, राइट, द नेचर हैज मेड एवरीवन रफली इक्वल, and since the state of nature there was no government, there is no law, no just, no unjust, right? And individual are competitive, right? Individual are diffident, they want glory and they fight among each other, and this is a condition where each man is in, at war with each man, right? And if this condition is a very nasty condition, right? And human being desires for power, desire तो है सबके अंदर पावर का। अब पावर में क्या करेगा? सब लैंड घेरेगा, यही तो करेगा, इंडस्ट्री बनाएगा, बट लॉ नहीं है प्रोटेक्ट करने के लिए। सो लाइफ इज नॉट सिक्योर्ड एंड दिस इन दिस कंडीशन, राइट? नो आर्ट, नो कल्चर, नो इंडस्ट्री, right? And life of man is, and there is only one, that is constant danger of violent death. Everyone wants to avoid violent death. As he said, we want to avoid, that is a passion, right? And everyone wants to avoid death. So how to avoid death? Violent death? कोई भी violent death नहीं चाहता, तो क्या करेगा वो? सोशल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट करेगा। तो पहले स्टेट ऑफ नेचर पढ़ते हैं, फिर ह्यूमन नेचर पढ़ते हैं, क्योंकि उसी में वहीं पे ह्यूमन नेचर है, उनका ही ह्यूमन नेचर है, और ह्यूमन नेचर के कारण ही स्टेट ऑफ नेचर ऐसा है। ह्यूमन नेचर के कारण ही स्टेट ऑफ नेचर ऐसा है। नहीं तो अगर ह्यूमन नेचर अच्छा होता तो ये अच्छे होते, सरकार की कोई जरूरत नहीं है। अगर अपने आप सब रूल हो जाते, है ना, देखते कि अगर पुलिस वाले की कोई जरूरत नहीं पड़ती, अगर कोई चोरी ना करता, कोई ये नहीं करता, कोई एक दूसरे को हथियार ना लेता, राइट, तो क्या होता है? पुलिस की क्या जरूरत थी? कोई जरूरत नहीं था। या वन मोर क्वेश्चन, कैरोल पैकमैन कॉल्ड इट सेक्सुअल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट। यस यस Sobit, या यू आर राइट। कैरोल पैकमैन कॉल्ड, her book title is sexual contract, basically it is a social contract, sexual contract. Very good. The state of nature लिखिए। देखिए, state of nature refers to a hypothetical condition, refers to a hypothetical condition, right, in which there is no government or common power. ये स्टेट ऑफ नेचर है। समझ में आया स्टेट ऑफ नेचर क्या है? देयर इज नो कॉमन पावर, देयरफॉर देयर इज नो लॉ, नो जस्टिस, no notion of right and wrong, no notions of right and wrong, फुल स्टॉप. हाँ, कोई मतलब सिंस सरकार नहीं है तो कोई लॉ नहीं है, अब लॉ नहीं है तो कोई जस्टिस और अनजस्ट कुछ भी, सब कुछ सही है, राइट. सब मतलब फिर इसका मतलब है कि ना कुछ सही है ना कुछ गलत है, लोगों को पता भी नहीं कि क्या सही है क्या गलत है, राइट. दो ही चीज यहां पर लोग काम करता है, दो ही तरीके से, एक फोर्स और फ्रॉड. देखिए, फोर्स एंड फ्रॉड आर द टू कार्डिनल वर्च्यू. इसी में फोर्स एंड फ्रॉड, फ्रॉड, फोर्स एंड फ्रॉड, FRAUD, फ्रॉड होता है ना, फ्रॉड. क्या प्रोनाउंस करते हो? मेरे मुंह में ना घाव है एक्चुअली एक सप्ताह से ऐसा. फोर्स एंड फ्रॉड, फ्रॉडिंग होता है ना, फ्रॉड करना एक दूसरे को. फोर्स एंड फ्रॉड आर टू कार्डिनल वर्च्यू ऑफ मैन. कार्डिनल, CARDINAL, कार्डिनल वर्च्यू. ये बाबा, वो प्लेटो बाबा नहीं जस्टिस बताएंगे, जस्टिस वर्च्यू है. फोर्स एंड फ्रॉड आर टू कार्डिनल वर्च्यू ऑफ मैन इन a state of nature. It is a ill condition. It is a ill condition wherein it is a ill condition, WHERE, wherein each man is an enemy, wherein each man is an enemy to each man. Full stop. Each man follow their pursuit of power. Each man follow their pursuit for power. Fine. Change the para and write. Hobbes argued that nature has made each man equal. Right? Nature has made man equal, or each man equal. Some is stronger in body, some is stronger in body, but some is stronger in mind. Someone is stronger in mind. Therefore, difference between man and man, is not so considerable. Right? समझ में आया? इसमें क्या बताया मैंने? एक ही लाइन में बताया, each man is equal. यही बताया ना इस पूरे पैरा में. नेक्स्ट पैरा लिखिए. In a state of nature, humans have passion to acquire power. In the state of nature, human beings have passion for power. और each man has desire for power. Right? जितने बार मैं बोलूंगा अब उसमें थोड़ा सा कुछ चेंज हो जाएगा, राइट? बट मीनिंग वही होगा, राइट? in a state of nature, क्या लिखा? In a state of nature, human beings have desire for power, right? That desire ceased into death. Ceases, yeah, SEASES और ED लगा देंगे तो ceased हो जाएगा. Ceases into death. Human being enjoy liberty and rights, which is unlimited. क्यों अनलिमिटेड है? क्योंकि कोई लॉ ही नहीं है, पता ही नहीं है. So human being possess liberty and rights unlimited. समझ में आ रहा है? क्यों? क्योंकि वहां पर कोई सरकारी नहीं है, कोई गवर्नमेंट ही नहीं है, राइट? क्या लिखा लास्ट में? अनलिमिटेड liberty and rights, including right to another's body. देखो कितना राइट्स है लोगों के पास. क्योंकि सरकार में कोई लॉ नहीं है तो लोगों को अगर इतना राइट है कि वो दूसरे को भी पराधीन बना ले, दूसरों को भी गुलाम बना ले, राइट? Like since there is no law, since there is no government, there is no sense of right and wrong. No sense of right and wrong. It is a situation of disorder. Anarchy. Right? You can write मत्स्य न्याय, जो भी लिखना है लिख भी सकते हैं. यूज कर लीजिए मत्स्य न्याय. अरे मत्स्य, मत्स्य न्याय. मत्स्य न्याय. Right? Life is in danger. Life is in danger. Life is in danger. Since men are competitive, therefore they may attack others. Right? Change the para and write. The state of nature is degenerated into a state of war. A state of war where each man is at war with every man. Right? And each man is enemy to each man. In such condition, there is no art, no letters, no art, A-R-T, yeah. In such condition, there is no art, नो लेटर्स, लेटर्स मतलब पढ़ाई लिखाई, हाँ, नो सोसाइटी, नो सोसाइटी, एंड worst of all, WORST, worst of all, that worst of all, that continuous fear, that it is situation of, ऐसे लिखिए, it is situation of continuous fear, fear and violent death. And violent death, right? The life of the man, the life of the man is, the life of the man is solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. And the life of man is solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. Now, can you relate the current regime, current time, when we fall a state of nature? Yeah, there are many African countries where there is no common authority and people fight among each other. Recently, two noble army person, BSF person, killed, right? And they both were serving UN peacekeeping force, right? Have you seen the moment when Ashraf Ghani fled from Afghanistan and this Taliban was entering into Afghanistan? There is no central authority. Everything was in chaos. Everything was in chaos, right? Condition was, there was a constant fear of violent death. People are moving here and there, right? So when there is no authority, then you can find such anarchy, such kind of situation that he called state of nature. Fine? Got the idea? हो गया state of nature खत्म. ठीक है? अब ह्यूमन नेचर है वो आज नहीं कल. आप मुझे बताइए क्या समझ में नहीं आया वो बताइए. ह्यूमन नेचर भी मोटा मोटी ऊपर आपको पता चल गया है, राइट? ह्यूमन नेचर, स्टेट ऑफ नेचर में अल्टीमेट लिबर्टी है, उसके पास राइट्स भी है, इतना राइट है कि दूसरे को गुलाम बन लो, दूसरे की प्रॉपर्टी छीन लो. सिंस देयर इज नो अथॉरिटी, उसके मर्जी जो करे, राइट? और उसके अंदर क्या है, वो कॉम्पिटिटिव है, वो ग्लोरी चाहता है, राइट? और इसलिए वो वार की सिचुएशन में है दूसरे के इंसान के साथ, राइट? और सॉलिटरी, पुअर, नास्टी, ब्रिटिश, शॉर्ट. सोच सकते हैं कि जो इंसान वार के टाइम पे इमेजिन कर रहा हो, ह्यूमन नेचर, वार के टाइम पे तो ऐसे ही इंसान मिलेंगे ना, isn't it? Think about English Civil War and his thinking. नहीं. So his thought was based on English Civil War largely. If we talk about John Locke, he was not pessimistic, so he's very optimistic, unlike Thomas Hobbes, about state of nature and human nature. He also talks about the state of nature, human nature.